Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today, we are honored to welcome a remarkable guest, Wes Michael. Wes is the founder and president of Rare Patient Voice. Welcome, Wes. How are you?
Great, Lance. Great to be with you today.
Our pleasure, Wes. You know, we've done some work with you guys in the past. I think you guys do just tremendous work and have such a great mission. And it really all originates with you, Wes Michael, the founder and president of Rare Patient Voice. So it's a pleasure to have you here with us today, Wes. I want to kick it off, though. For people who are not familiar with Rare Patient Voice, how do you describe it to people when you first meet them?
You know, in the simplest terms, we're a matchmaker. We match up people. They could be patients, they could be caregivers with any condition you could think of. We match them up with research opportunities. It could be surveys or interviews, even clinical trials, and we get them compensated for it. So it's confidential. Nobody gets their name. Nobody's spamming them. Yet they get to share their opinions. It helps companies, right? It helps companies develop treatments with the patient point of view, the caregiver's point of view in mind, and they get compensated. It's a real win-win for everybody.
That is a win-win. You know, but I want to talk a little bit about you now. And, you know, if you could, tell us a little bit about yourself. For example, you know, what really first got you started in thinking about how you could help others and ultimately creating Rare Patient Voice, and what motivates you every day to keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah, it's funny. So many people that I meet in I say rare disease, but all disease communities, got there because of a personal connection or a reason that pulled them in. And we all know people, believe me, that everybody's touched by this. But that's not what pulled me in. I got in from a kind of a different angle. I was a market researcher. And I was researching Wheaties and Cheerios and things like that. So you think, well, how do you get from that into healthcare? Well, I moved in the 90s. It was an exciting time for the industry. That's when all those ads you see on TV, right? Ask your doctor. They weren't legal until then. And so that was a whole new field. And I got into the market research of that area. And so many of the companies for years, the manufacturer, the drug and biotech, and they would go to doctors, right? And doctors are still so important, right? Because they prescribe and they're experts. But when that started, where they put ads on TV, and just the internet was just, you know, a little baby then, I guess. They had to, guess what? Talk to the people that would use their products, talk to the patients, talk to the caregivers. And so it was so interesting to be involved in learning and have them learn. Here's what patients, not because a doctor will tell you, none of my patients have any problem taking injections. And a patient's like, God, if I could take a pill instead of an injection, it would make me so much happier. You know, you get that point of view. So I got involved in that. And then one thing happened that got me involved in this Rare Patient Voice. Gave me the idea, and I eventually did something with it. We had a client that made a product, a treatment for people with hemophilia. You know, hemophilia is a rare condition. And it was even rarer in 1998 because a whole generation had been wiped out. Because, you know, when AIDS and HIV was out there, it got into the blood supply, and they were using blood products. Before people understood it, they had those viruses in the blood, and it wiped out a generation of patients. It's just a horrible, horrible situation. But they had a good product that did not have it. You know, they learned a lesson. They had clean blood, if you will, product. But they said, can you help us? We really want to get to know the patients and their families. We want to see what services, it's not just about our product, it's about products and services, and what else can we do for them? Can you develop, in market research lingo, we call a panel. It's like a community, a group of people that we could go to and ask them questions and learn from them. And so I was working for a small research company then. We said, sure, let's see what we can do. And we went to the National Hemophilia Foundation conference. And every year it was a different city, and we would be there. You set up a table, and you have your giveaway items, and your clipboards, and you meet with people and talk. And it was very successful. People were very interested. They wanted to share their stories, and that could have been that. But every year we'd go back. It was in a different city every year, and we'd go back and find more people that were interested. And here's what gave me the idea. Somebody came up to me from a different client, different company, and they said, Wes, we hear you have this hemophilia patient panel. Can we access it? Well, the answer is no, because client A paid for it. Client B can't, right? That would be pretty bad. But that gave me the idea. It's like, wait, why not create something that's not beholden to just one client? Why not create something where people can have the opportunity to participate help all sorts of companies with their what they want to learn from patients and caregivers. And so I had that idea, and I didn't run out and do anything with it, but I had it. I would talk about it. I remember talking to my wife about it. And that was in like 2000. It wasn't until 2013. So I'm a slow mover. But everything came together for me personally and professionally at that point to do that, because I was working with another small company then who had a bit of a cash flow problem. And they asked me if I could work a few months without getting paid. And they eventually paid me everything. I can't complain. But I said, wait, I'm not getting paid. There's this other idea. And my wife had been out of the workforce, raising her kids. And it was all about healthcare, right? So she got this was before Obamacare. So she got a job at the same time. She had been looking, and she found a local job that had healthcare, and our kids were like 12 or 13. I said, perfect. You have that. We have coverage. They're old enough now. I'll be around home getting this thing started. It's summertime. I'll keep an eye on them from time to time. And so that's it. I said, and I came up with a name and such. And guess what? The first thing I did was I went to the hemophilia conference. Right? I'm no idiot. That worked once. I've been involved. I knew that there was a lot of interest in that area. I knew it had worked, and this was a good sign. So that fall, it was the conference was in Disneyland in Anaheim, in California. And right before I went out there, I got a call from a guy. He said, "Hey, we're trying to do a hemophilia study, and we can't find anybody. We've been trying for a month. Do you have anybody?" And I said, "No, but by the end of the weekend I will." And I went out there, and I still remember I recruited 136 people, and that was our first study. He was like, "Wow, this is great." So it took me a long time, but I gotten that idea, and even then I didn't know whether is it just me, and I'll just work in hemophilia, and can I make a living at this, and from there it's who I would never predict it. It grew into a wonderful thing where we're helping people of all sorts of conditions.
That's incredible, Wes. I love stories like that. Mine is not too dissimilar. Different, reasons and things behind it, but I feel like people that go into it really with a passion and the motivation to help really are the ones that succeed. If you go into it with a business mindset only, you can quickly, in my opinion, easily flame out because, like you said, it took a while to get you there, but you got there, right? Yeah. It's not a quick turn and return on your investment always, but I just applaud the work you guys are doing there. And that really leads me to my next question. And I have 20 plus years in healthcare, dealt with doctors, hospitals, been on the family side of it, caring for my father. And, sometimes you feel like your voice doesn't really matter. And sometimes people don't even listen to your voice. Why do you feel that patient participation is so critical in research?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, as I said, they used to just say, "Oh, well, listen to physicians," but companies have learned that's not the answer now. Patients are more empowered, or their families are more empowered. They'll go on the internet and they'll look things up and they'll ask questions and they'll want to know why. And for good and for bad, right? There's a lot of bad information out there. But no matter what, I would say, your health is too important to be left only in the hands of the doctors. You got to take control of it. You, at least your family members, depending on the capability of the patient. And so it is so important for people to be able to do that, because this is what the companies need to hear. The companies that make treatments, that make cures, that make products and services, they have a lot of decisions to make. They have to figure out exactly what, from how the clinical trial is going to be to, is it a pill or is it an injection, and what can we do, and how safe does it need to be, and how effective. They have all these things, and then to what color the package, right? They have so many decisions to make. Well, don't make them pull it out of the air. A bunch of MBAs in an ivory tower, they're smart, but they don't know what the patient is going through. So they need to hear directly from the patient what they need and what they don't need. And more, what I'm really happy is over the years, since the 13 years since I started this, we see that. We see it more and more. We see it in our business. That's why our business has grown. Because companies used to, I think, pay a little lip service to it. And now they're like, no, this is a good business practice. We need to listen to people. The other thing I think is so great is, and I've been in research, and you do surveys, and you have your charts and your graphs, and 38%. And that's all important. You need to have your facts. But that's, what sticks with people are the stories, right? When you hear a real person, it's like, because they'll say, well, 38%. Yeah, but remember that lady who told us about her mother that did this and that, and that's what sticks with people. And people make more decisions than they realize by their gut, their emotions and their gut. And yeah, it's got to be based, you need your facts and figures. But that's what speaks to people. So I love it that people get a chance to tell their stories, to give their opinions, and that sticks with people, no matter who it is, somebody to the highest level of these companies. That's what they remember, and that gives them a stake in, hey, we got to do something. Remember Mary told us we got to do something for Mary. It's not just those 38% of the people on the graph,
Right. Do you feel like, Wes, and I don't want to put words in your mouth or tell you how to feel, but, given, your experience all those years ago to where it is now, do you feel like you've been the catalyst in changing the way these companies view patients and their stories?
Well, I think we've played a part. I'm not taking certainly all the credit. I like to say, what was the line from the movie? If you build it, they will come. So people used to say, well, I'll go back to the hemophilia. Well, can we get 2 or 3 hemophilia patients to talk to them? And we would say, yes, you could get 20. You could do a survey with 100. When they found out they could actually do more, then they did more. There's not a barrier. We said, ask us. We have these folks, because we would go to those patient events, a rare disease, but if you go to them and meet with them, go to where they are and sign up, and then they would refer other people, or they would be in a support group or on Facebook. So we're a catalyst in the sense of, guys, don't assume you can't talk to these people. We will let you do that. We'll tell you exactly how many people we have. We'll reach out to them, and a good number of them will be happy to give you their advice, their experience, their stories. So from that event, we were a catalyst. It's never going to be just one thing, right, that makes everything move, but that helped.
Do you still see that there's a lot of progress yet to be made in getting companies to look at that perspective? Yeah,
that's so true, because, as I said, I'm so happy that people are doing so much more. They're not just checking a box, they're talking, but yeah, there's always more. There's always more, because I hear patients sometimes feel like they were talked to, but were people really listening? So it's like any issue. You make progress but you're far from that end goal, right? There's still a long way to go. So, and in most diseases, most rare diseases don't even have a treatment. So, there's so much that needs to be done, and with the help of the patients.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you've kind of alluded to some of this, but how do you feel that patient voices help to influence clinical product development, the messaging, and even the strategy?
It's so important. I was at a patient or a conference that, so often we go to a patient conference, and those are terrific, but this was a patient conference with the researchers there, so a combined group. And it was, I think it might have been pulmonary fibrosis. It was a lung disease, and it was so exciting to hear this. The researchers were saying, "Look, we think we got this. We think we can save your life. We're working on this treatment." And they explained this, that, and the other, how they're going to get there. And the patient said, "We love you. Thank you so much. But what can you do about my cough?" And the researcher said, "But the cough is not what's going to kill you." But the patients would say, "If you can't fix my cough, I don't even want to live." So quality of life, you have to hear that whole story. And so the researchers got it, because there are real life patients there. So it's like, okay, we need to work on the cough as well as the cause of what makes this disease so deadly. So it really, it's great to see that. It is so important for and if you're a researcher, you're in a lab and you're doing all this important work, you want to from time to time see what it's all about. See that person or the mom of a kid, or whatever it's right. That makes it all like, oh my God, you go home and say, I'm going to work that extra hour because we got to do this. Because it's people are right. People are people. They relate to people more than objects or numbers.
No, absolutely. And, to me, it kind of ties into, with what we do, having our home care company and, the hundreds of people that I talk to, they are frustrated, and this is from the caregiving side, Wes, yeah. But I feel like it strongly relates to, what you're doing. They'll go into the doctor's appointment with their mom, their dad, their spouse who has dementia or, end-stage cancer, and, they're completely burnt out. They're exhausted emotionally, physically, and financially. And they want somebody to tell them it's okay and to give them some support and just hear them, just so that they feel like somebody cares. And the doctor or whoever the professional happens to be, if they've never walked that journey and have been in that situation, they can't relate to it at all. And so, giving these people a voice, I feel, is crucial in helping them also continue down that journey of caring for their loved ones. So I think what you guys are doing is just tremendous. It's fantastic.
There's a side benefit that you make me think of. In addition to that information getting to the people that are making treatments and such, patients tell us, hey, my family's tired of hearing me talk about this. They're talking to an empathetic person who's done the research, who knows it. They find it's like cathartic experience. They're able to talk about it, and then they have the benefit of learning about a new treatment that's they not even told the name of because they're in development. But they learn about what's coming down the pike, and it makes people very hopeful.
Glimmer of hope, yes, gives them a glimmer of hope. When you feel hopeless, that's all you need sometimes. Absolutely. When we talk about, diversity and inclusion, I feel like it's especially important with patient recruitment, but why is it important?
Well, when you're developing treatments and doing things, you can't just do it for some specific group. You need to make it work for everybody. And it's funny because so many, and I get the science, I'm sure scientists can explain all this, but so often they'll want somebody with just that disease and nothing else. That's not the real world. So many of these diseases go with something else. At the very least, if you have some of these bad conditions, you may have mental health issues. You may have anxiety, depression. How wouldn't you, right? If you're dealing with all this, and so they're looking for these pure cases. It's like that's not the real world. And the same thing with diversity. You really want to give everybody a shot at it. And I feel good about what we've been able to do because we go to where people are. If it's a sickle cell, we'll go to the sickle cell conference. If it's lupus, we'll go to some that are out in the suburbs. We'll go to some that are in inner city, and we'll see so many minorities and such there because those are the people that some of these diseases have disproportionately. So it's so important to do it. Our biggest issue is not one of race or ethnicity. It's gender. We men are terrible. We're less likely to sign up. We don't want to share our experience. They're less likely to do these surveys and interviews. And women, they're happy to talk about it, much more likely, and things like that. So that's why I always say our biggest issue is getting men to open up and talk about their issues because you're not going to solve it if you keep it to yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I may have heard that once or twice myself from my wife, so I can relate. Yeah. I can relate. In preparing to speak with you today, I learned something new that I was not familiar with, and that's decentralized clinical trials. What are those, and how do they help patients?
Oh, that's such an important development, I think. So if you think of a normal, quote-unquote, clinical trial, it's set up at, I'll make a number up, 10, whatever, hospital clinics around the country, and they have to recruit people that live conveniently near there or that are willing to travel to those spots, and they may have to go every month for tests and all this stuff for the treatment of the test. And you can imagine how many people that excludes, because how many people live around the certain places, how many people are able to travel. So it makes it difficult. And if you think, especially of rare diseases, you need enough people to do a clinical trial before it's even accepted by the FDA. So you're talking about really narrowing it down and making it very difficult. Decentralized is saying there may be some times you need to go into a place, but in general, you may be able to do it from your home or from your own doctor's office or a local clinic where they can do certain tests. So they've decentralized it. So you can live almost anywhere and be part of this. So it's so wonderful for the trial. All of a sudden, they're not restricted to a small group of people, especially if it's rare. They can go maybe to the whole country. And to the patient, they don't have to turn their life upside down. It's not like, oh, I got to fly my family and my kids every month 3 hours away, and I'm 3 days in this. Oh my God! And while trying to hold down a job and raise the other kids and all the things people are trying to do, it really brings it so much. It's kind of like what COVID taught us about work, right? So many people were able to work remotely and now still do. Not perfect for everybody, but same thing with decentralized. There still are certain things where you need to may need to go into the central area, but maybe it's once a year rather than every month. So it's really a wonderful thing, and we love it because we can reach out. Again, instead of reaching out to 20 people in a certain area, we can reach out to 200 people across the country if it's a rare disease or whatever it might be. So it just opens up the opportunity for more people, and then drugs won't get on the market until they're approved. So anything that speeds up that process, gets more people in the clinical trial, then it can get started sooner, then it gets ended, and if it's successful, they can get that drug out to help more people. So it's a win all along the way there to make it decentralized if possible.
Absolutely. Before we go on, I just want to ask, with the, Advent, it was around, but now people are more familiar and comfortable with it for the most part with, virtual meetings and doctor's appointments and things all done through the internet. If there's somebody watching or listening to this right now who lives outside of the United States, are they eligible to participate in any of these trials?
Often they are. Often a lot of trials are more in other countries than in the U.S. So, and then our company, Rare Patient Voice, we'll take people from anywhere. We especially focus on the U.S. and then Europe, as well as Canada and Australia and New Zealand. So we're encouraging everybody, and we'll find what we can for them.
Wonderful. I want to kind of jump to mental health because this is something that not only the patient experiences, but their family, the caregiver. What are some of the mental health aspects involved for patients and caregivers? And is it true, in your opinion, that many healthcare providers don't provide adequate mental health services?
Yeah, that's what we found. We actually did a survey with our folks about a lot of the mental health issues. And there's so much, let's talk about an area where we need more, more progress. But as I was alluding to before, so often just having it or taking care of it and all the things it does to disrupt your life can cause people to have more anxiety, depression, and things like that. Not to mention the fact that the mental health issues themselves can be a serious disease that people are trying to work on. So it is such a big deal. And then when we ask people what they're doing about a lot of these, a lot aren't doing much, and often their healthcare provider is not, because they're not a psychiatrist, they're working on disease X and they have that, they might not be thinking about these other issues. And they really need to be, because again, back to, right, people are whole people, they're not just a disease. And we need to work on the whole aspect of everything that makes their life worth living. So it is such an important area. But people aren't getting the support they need. That's what they told us. I know so many who admit to having problems haven't reached out, so they need to be encouraged that they need to do that, because don't assume somebody will see that you're having a problem and help you. You've got to raise your hand.
Absolutely. I love that analogy. Raise your hand, because you can't assume that somebody needs it if they don't let you know they need it, right? You guys had some exciting news. You had a recent sale of Rare Patient Voice to Canovo. How did that come about, and how did you reach that decision?
Yeah. So as I said, I started Rare Patient Voice 13 years ago, and even from the very beginning, companies would approach me, and I was like, "What are you talking about? This is my little baby, and we're going to build this, and we're going to do everything we can." And then over the last couple of years, I'm 68 now. Now, knock on wood, I'm in good health and full of energy. But I've had to look to the future. And this is not a business. My kids aren't interested in this. My son's a firefighter, and my daughter wants to travel around the world. So I wasn't even considering that kind of thing. So I said, well, at some point, something has to happen to the company, and I want good things to happen to the company. And I do the analogy. Both of my kids, they're 23 and 24, are adopted. And when we adopted them, we met with the birth mothers, and can you imagine being a birth mother, giving your child up, doing that thinking like this is better for them? I mean, it's amazing what they'll go through. But I'm the same thing. I had to think of what's best for the company. Well, I want to put it in the right hands, right? So the birth mother, hey, if I put it in the right hands, good things are more likely to happen. And that's how I felt about the company. It's like, I can't control the future, but if I pick a really good outfit, I'm much more confident that good things will happen. So I was fortunate. We had a lot of companies that were interested, and we talked to them, super, super good companies. But I was so excited that we worked with Canovo. Canovo, we joke, it's like we've been dating for years. Two companies that formed Canovo have been our clients for over 10 years. So we know them really well, and they know us. And we've just, by talking to a lot of companies and talking to them, we really felt that they had the right attitude, because two key things on my mind were, you got to protect our relationship with the patients and the caregivers. We got to honor that. We don't want anybody to put that at risk. And the employees, all these folks, and so many of them have come from the different disease communities. They've built the company, and you want to do what's best for them as well. So I don't want to take a buck and disappear. I want to make sure everything's set on a good path. So I was so excited that they had a great interest in us, and we worked it all out. And now it's been over a month, and I couldn't be happier with how it's worked out and how we've been working with the folks. And they welcomed us with open arms, and our folks, everybody is getting along so well, and they've proven that they do cherish what we're done for patients and caregivers.
That's tremendous. For ourselves, we recently acquired an 11-year-old nonprofit, All's Authors, and it's the largest international resource for dementia. There's no other disease in the world that has the amount of resources dedicated to it under one single roof, which is All's Authors for dementia. And, listening to you describe that, kind of taking over someone else's baby, I'm kind of on the reverse side. I'm taking over their baby. Yeah. And they kind of had the same, thought process and sentiment. They wanted it in good hands, and, to watch it grow and flourish and, expand. And so I can appreciate what, you and Canovo just went through. Just on a personal note, Wes, what are your intentions? I know you're the founder and the president. Are you maintaining that role into the future, or do you have a date you're stepping away? Or
yeah, I'm still doing that, but I'm tapering off. Our great people are picking up more and more of that. I want to make sure all the pieces are held together for a while, and I want to help them grow and expand, because we really want to grow Rare Patient Voice, not only within the U.S., but in the other countries we're in. So I'm going to help doing that. But the idea is in a year or so, they're going to see I'm a bad employee, and they're not going to want me anymore. So.
I doubt that. Well, Wes, we're going to have everything in the show notes for you guys, and we're going to, tag you and make sure everybody's aware of your interview with us and Rare Patient Voice. But I'd like for our non-viewing audience right now for you to share, where would you like people to go to learn more about Rare Patient Voice and to join the Rare Patient Voice community? Oh,
great. RarePatientVoice.com. is the place to go. We try to put everything we could think of, any questions people have, because we love it when people have questions. And please, and contact information. Please feel free to write or call with questions. But if you go on there, we answer that. And if you decide you want to join, which we love, we're always looking for people with any and all conditions. There's buttons there. It'll say sign up, and you'll click, and it'll ask you. Most importantly, your email, because that's how we contact people. We don't call. Who answers their phone nowadays from a stranger? But the email, and then enough information so we don't target you. We don't want to send a lupus person an MS study. That's waste. People get annoyed with that. Why would we want to do it? So we want to know what condition you have so that we can target target you to the ones that you might be interested in. So we don't ask a ton, but we ask enough about that. Or if you're a caregiver, we'll ask you about the conditions of the patients that you care for. And feel free to go through there, but ask any questions that you want. But yeah, rarepatientvoice.com. We have this wonderful group that does all this stuff on social media, and a lot of the social media that I don't even, the TikToks of the world, I still haven't found those. But I do see Facebook, and there's a wonderful Facebook, and they put a lot of things out there, and inspirational messages and news about certain studies we're doing if we're looking for more people, and they do Facebook Live. So just look for Rare Patient Voice on Facebook. I think it pops right up if you look for that.
Wonderful. And we'll put it up on the screen as well for viewers. And anytime we can help support the work you guys are doing, we're happy to do so, Wes. And it's just been a joy getting to talk to you and learn more about your story. But before we go, I got to ask you one last question. We're going to stay in contact and we're going to be good friends. But let's say we didn't stay in contact and I ran into you 5 years down the road. What is Wes Michael doing 5 years from now?
God, I'll still want to see what's going on with the patients in the community, but I'm looking to. I might be down at the beach a bit more. Might be getting some more time swimming, going out hiking with some friends. My grandson is 6 now, so he'll be 10. So who knows what he'll be up. He's already riding a bike, so who knows what we'll be doing in 5 or 6 more years. So all sorts of fun stuff.
That's wonderful, Wes. Well, thank you for your time today, but most importantly, thank you for creating this community that's benefiting countless and countless numbers of families and their caregivers.
Well, and thanks for your support, Lance. We love what you're doing, and it's great to work together.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Hi, I'm Wes Michael. At Rare Patient Voice, we're matchmakers. We connect patients and family caregivers with opportunities to take part in all kinds of research studies, from online surveys and focus groups to clinical trials. We cover thousands of rare and non-rare conditions, and the RPV community is worldwide. Here are some of our community members sharing their voices.
I have immensely enjoyed working with Rare Patient Voice.
It has been a privilege.
Really been a lot of fun.
Incredibly easy.
Amazing.
I actually love working with Rare Patient Voice.
The experience that I've had has been a wonderful one.
So far has been really great.
Been excellent.
It's been really rewarding.
It's a wonderful community to be a part of.
It's been a really friendly, easy to use.
The emails, the constant communication, the newsletters, all of the surveys and interviews offered for my disease has really made me feel like a part of a community.
It gives me a space to voice my experience.
I feel like Rare Patient Voice truly cares about the patient, and not just the patient, the caregiver as well.
As a caregiver, it is important to share my story, and so they know that there are other people out there that have the same frustrations and difficulties as they have.
By talking to someone who lives the life of a caregiver, we can let them know what we need. That wouldn't be possible without Rare Patient Voice.
I'm not a doctor, but I can feel like I can help.
Just by signing up with Rare Patient Voice, you can put your voice into research.
Without us giving our opinions, there's no way for manufacturers and advocacy groups to know what we need.
In the Latino community, there's still a lot of shame, stigma, and silence regarding our religion, culture, and social norms. That's important for researchers to know.
They can understand in a more efficient and better way how to help people.
Especially on the Rare Patient Voice platform, I feel that we get heard and seen by the researchers.
Because support is just vital, is precious.
If you get your voice out there, it helps more people that are going through what you're going through.
So that nobody else has to deal with it taking forever to get a diagnosis.
And also, to make a little bit of money on the side is always good too.
They always seem to provide really great insight and studies that are offered.
A huge database and be alerted when new studies are available that would pertain to me. It's just so great to have that resource.
As a patient, I feel that it's important to share my voice.
Everyone has a story to tell.
It's important for me
letting our voices be heard.
Go for it. Get your voice out there.
Get your voice heard.
You just might be the push that somebody is waiting for.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. We'd also like to say thank you again to Wes Michael for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.